Who Dat Nation, hold your breath. We need to talk about our secondary, because the situation is getting intense. While everyone was looking elsewhere, one young defensive back just became the most critical piece of our entire defensive puzzle for the upcoming season. Is he ready to step up and anchor our pass defense, or are we heading for a major setback? I've got the full breakdown on why he is suddenly rising to the top of our priority list. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Let's dive into this. Quincy Riley finds himself at the center of the defensive strategy for the New Orleans Saints as they head into the 2026 season. After an offseason characterized by a notable lack of defensive backfield reinforcements, the pressure on the secondary depth is palpable. The departure of Alontae to the Tennessee Titans has left a significant void, and with only the free agent acquisition of Martin Emerson on the books, the spotlight is firmly fixed on Riley. Originally selected as the 131st overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Riley was once considered an afterthought, but he enters this year as a vital component of the defensive rotation. During his rookie campaign, he appeared in all 17 games, earning 5 starts that proved crucial to his development. Ranking third on the team in passes defensed behind Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry, he demonstrated an ability to handle professional competition far earlier than many anticipated. The team's decision to wait until the 7th round to draft T.J. Hall and the 5th round for safety Lorenzo Styles underscores a specific reliance on internal growth. Riley is no longer just a depth piece. He is a primary solution for a unit operating on a thin margin of error. As the Saints look to maintain stability, the Who Dat faithful are watching closely to see if he can replicate the efficiency he displayed during the latter quarter of his first year. Having successfully adapted to defensive coordinator Brandon Staley's scheme, he has transitioned from a draft prospect labeled as a backup into a player expected to shoulder significant defensive snaps in 2026. His trajectory is the defining narrative for a team that has largely stood pat, while other franchises aggressively reshuffled their defensive rosters this past spring. The question of why this matters for the New Orleans Saints right now boils down to the reality of their current depth chart. With Isaac Yiadom behind him, the team is relying on a veteran who has started only 34 games over 8 seasons, making the durability and performance of Quincy Riley an absolute necessity for success. If Riley suffers a setback, or fails to maintain the level of play he reached in late 2025, the secondary risks a major decline in efficiency. This is a critical juncture because the front office opted against major acquisitions, effectively betting that Riley's rapid progress from his rookie debut against the New England Patriots was not a fluke. During the final 6 games of his debut season, he recorded more than half of his 35 total tackles and saw his snap count rise to approximately 75% of all defensive plays. This statistical surge solidified his role and convinced the coaching staff that they could bypass more aggressive moves at the cornerback position. However, the lack of depth remains a concern. With only Emerson and T.J. Hall providing secondary options, the entire defensive structure for 2026 is linked to Riley's health and consistency. He proved he could survive the jump to the NFL, but surviving is not the same as thriving over the course of an entire 17-game schedule. The team is essentially forced to trust that his growth curve will continue upward rather than plateau. Without the presence of Alontae, the responsibility to defend the perimeter rests on Riley's ability to minimize mistakes, maintain discipline in his assignments, and provide the level of play required to stabilize a position group that currently lacks veteran security. Quincy Riley's rise is deeply rooted in his ability to leverage his instinctive ball skills, a trait that was well documented during his 6 seasons of collegiate football. Over his 3 years at Middle Tennessee and another 3 at Louisville, Riley tallied 15 interceptions, a high production rate that many NFL scouts initially undervalued. Upon entering the 2025 NFL Draft, he was ranked 10th among cornerbacks in production, but only 16th in athleticism. Since joining the Saints, he has largely surpassed those pre-draft assessments. His 4.48 speed in the 40-yard dash is complemented by a recovery quickness that allows him to remain competitive even when his initial positioning is not perfect. Despite these physical attributes, there are tangible areas for improvement. Weighing in at under 200 pounds with a height of 5'11", Riley occasionally struggles against larger, more physical wide receivers. The coaching staff is aware that matching him against top-tier physical threats like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson poses a distinct challenge that could result in him being outmuscled at the catch point. Furthermore, film study from his rookie season suggests there is room for growth regarding his tackling technique and the pursuit angles he takes when coming up to support the run. These are aspects of his game that tend to improve with experience, but they remain current liabilities that opponents will surely test throughout the 2026 schedule. The transition from a collegiate athlete in South Carolina to a cornerstone of an NFL secondary has been swift, but the technical refinements required at this level are unforgiving. His path from AC Flora High School, where he excelled in track, basketball, and football, has prepared him for the physical demands, but the mental speed of the professional game remains the final hurdle he must clear this year. The statistical reality of Riley's 2025 season provides both optimism and a warning for the Saints. With a PFF overall grade of 62nd out of 114 cornerbacks, he operated slightly below the league average, though this is heavily mitigated by the fact that he was primarily a rotation player for the first half of the year, when the coaching staff thrust him into a starting role. Specifically in games like those during the mid to late season stretch, his confidence visibly increased. He responded by playing with a level of aggression that belied his experience. The organization's refusal to bring in an established, high-priced veteran indicates a belief that Riley's 2025 performance was the baseline, not the ceiling. For a team that prides itself on finding value, his development is a litmus test for their player evaluation process. However, relying on a second-year player to hold down the outside is a calculated risk. The absence of a major veteran signing means the Saints are inherently vulnerable to injury-related volatility. If Riley is forced to miss time, the drop-off to the rest of the current depth chart is statistically significant. This creates a scenario where every snap he plays is a high-stakes moment for the entire defense. He must now balance his instinctual play style with the disciplined technical requirements of a full-time starter. If he can tighten his pursuit angles and add the necessary strength to compete with bigger receivers, he has the potential to anchor a position group that many outside the building have written off as a weakness. The upcoming season will determine if the team's faith in his raw talent was justified, or if the lack of defensive backfield depth will haunt them during crucial late-season matchups against high-powered passing offenses. Looking ahead to the upcoming months, the narrative surrounding Quincy Riley is entirely about consistency. He has moved beyond the backup with potential label provided by his pre-draft analysis and has forced himself into the conversation as an essential starter. The Saints have placed a massive burden on his shoulders, effectively removing any safety net for the cornerback position. By choosing not to sign a veteran leader to mentor him or fill the void left by Alontae Taylor, the front office has handed the reins to a player who just finished his first year in the league. For the fans who carry the Who Dat spirit, the hope is that Riley's late-season surge was a sign of things to come, rather than an outlier. His performance in the final quarter of the 2025 season serves as the benchmark. If he can sustain that energy and continue to improve his technique under the guidance of Brandon Staley, he may solidify his place as a long-term solution. However, the margins are thin. He is entering his age 25 season, and while he is young enough to grow, he is old enough that the team expects immediate contributions. Every training camp rep and every preseason opportunity will be vital as he prepares for a schedule that will challenge him physically and mentally. The team's commitment to his growth is clear, and the lack of other major moves ensures he will get every opportunity to prove himself. The outcome of this decision will play a defining role in how the team's defense performs throughout the 2026 season. With the current roster alignment, the success of the entire unit is inextricably linked to whether Quincy Riley can evolve into a reliable, high-level contributor on a weekly basis.